Hi guys! Today I'm going to show you how to play Can't Help Falling in Love on ukulele. I'll be teaching the song on concert ukulele in the key of C major. In the end, it's going to sound something like this. Wise men say only fools rush in. We're specifically going to look at the version as played by 21 Pilots, but I'll also point out some opportunities to make it easier and to make it a little more interesting. The first thing to talk about is strum pattern, and I'll pretty much always say this, but you can play whatever is comfortable for you. But I'll show you a few different options, starting with the strum pattern from the 21 Pilots video. That version uses a pretty simple down, down, up, and the up strums are pretty gentle. We're really only emphasizing down strums. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And do you hear how the first beat of every group of 3 is accented? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that first strum out of 3 is the strongest. Another option would be a really simple finger picking pattern. It might sound like this. This one is nice and simple because all we're doing is going top to bottom and then back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2. It might take some practice if you're not used to finger picking, but this is a great pattern to start with. I usually perform this song in the key of D major because that's the key of the original recording and it's what fits my voice best. I also play it with a slightly different feel and strumming pattern, so if you'd like to hear that, you can watch this video. This song is an AABA form, which I'll talk about more later, but the point is we really only have to learn 2 sections for the whole song. So first I'm going to show you the A section, and I'll play through it in time with chord diagrams on the screen, and then afterward I'll show you some close-ups so you can see what fingering I'm using for each chord. So here's how the A section sounds. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now I'm going to do some close-ups, but you have to promise to ignore the fact that my nail polish is peeling horrendously. On a more serious note, I'm going to be holding my hand sort of funny to try and make the fretboard as visible as possible, but just know that when you're actually playing, you don't have to awkwardly hold all of your other fingers out of the way. So the A section plays through twice. The first time it starts with wise men say, only fools rush in. And then the second time it's on the lyric, shall I stay, would it be a sin, etc., etc. Then we get to the B section, which is the part that says, like a river flows, etc. So in the 21 Pilots version, he plays this B chord, which is 4th fret, 3rd fret, 2nd fret, 2nd fret. So it's technically a bar chord and may be difficult for some people. I'm going to play a B7 chord, which is very similar, except we're not barring that 4th string. So it's just 4th fret, 3rd fret, 2nd fret, open. So this should make it a little simpler, but if you want, you can also try that bar chord. Here's how the B section sounds. 1, 2, 3. the 21 Pilots version, he changes the strumming pattern just a little bit on the bridge. So instead of doing down, down, up the whole time, he sort of alternates between that pattern we've been using and then just holding out. So it'll sound kind of like this. Down, down, up, hold. Down, down, up, hold. So if you want to play it exactly like that cover, that may be something you could try out. Another note for this section is that in the 21 Pilots version, he goes straight to this A7 chord, where I would go back to the E minor chord before going to the A7. So that would sound like this. When we think about jazz harmony or jazz chord progressions, a 3-6-2-5-1 progression is really common and it's a really satisfying sound. So in this context, if we were going to go straight to the A7, that would make it a 6-2-5-1 progression, which is great. But the original song actually gives us that full 3-6-2-5-1 cycle, so that's my personal preference. Now after that B section, we're just back to the A section again, which we've already learned. So now let's talk about song form just a little bit more. In a lot of songs from this time period, AABA was a very common song form. While today we might have verse, pre-chorus, chorus, hook, post-chorus, and then repeat it all, and then we're gonna throw in a bridge later, so you end up with like 5 or 6 sections to your song. Well, back in the day, it was a lot more common to have AABA or ABAC or ABA. But in this case, for an AABA song form, it would be really common for each A section to have a slightly different ending. Well, in this case, we're lucky because all of our A sections end exactly the same. So we don't have to learn these subtle differences between our A sections. We literally only have to learn 2 sections. The A section, which we end up playing 3 times, and the B section, which we end up playing once. Going back to the 21 Pilots version, they play the song AABA, and then they repeat the B section and the last A section. So it's basically 1.5 full times through the song. And that's a really great structure to use when you're covering songs from this time period, because often once through the song will be a little bit short, but twice through the song can feel a little bit repetitive if you're not doing something new or exciting that second time through the song. So sometimes 1.5 times through is just the perfect amount of time to introduce a little bit of variation without wearing out your listeners. When you're playing, you want to move your fingers as little as possible between chords. Sometimes I see people like resetting their whole hand in between chords, and it's just super inefficient. It's not going to help you get from one chord to the next. So whenever possible, think about if any of your fingers stay in the same place from one chord to the next, or if any fingers stay on the same string but just slide to a different fret. So for example, going from an A minor to an F or vice versa, your middle finger stays where it is. It stays here, and you just add your pointer finger. I could probably do that motion so subtly that you wouldn't even see it on camera. Okay, maybe you could see it. But the point is, you don't have to reset your whole hand like A minor, F. That's not gonna work. Another example would be going from D minor to G7. Your pointer finger stays exactly where it is, and learning to keep that pointer finger planted will help you get from one chord to the next so much faster. Another example would be going from a G7 to a C. And in this case, our finger's not staying in exactly the same place, but it is on the same string. So look at our G7. Our ring finger is on the 2nd fret of the A string. And for a C chord, it just slides to the 3rd fret and the other 2 fingers come off. So don't worry about how different these shapes look or think that you have to take your whole hand off. Keep that ring finger on the A string and just slide it back and forth. I do want to mention that if you'd like the chord chart for this song, you can join me on Patreon at patreon.com/AbigailFlowersMusic. All of my Patreon patrons also gain access to a special page on my website which has a massive chord diagram library for both concert and baritone ukulele. Patrons also have access to a private Facebook group where we can share what we're working on, encourage each other, and interact directly. Wise men say only